everyone. My name is Moonshine. I'm the host of today's AMA with LEVR, which is going to be an exciting interactive section because this is being built on-chain sports betting. And in today's AMA, we'll see how they plan to offer a transparent on-chain experience without intermediaries. With prediction markets from 2x to 5x leverage on single game spot lines with more markets coming. So we have Mr. Blue here with us to talk about LEVR with us. So Mr. Blue, can you start by introducing yourself and the team behind your project?
Yeah, nice to be here. I am Blue. You can think of me as like the resident project lead and founder. Happy to answer kind of any questions that we may have, give you guys a full rundown of LEVR, how we accomplish leverage in sports betting and hopefully soon event markets. I believe we're the kind of the first to have tackled it, been live on Monad since day one of their testnet.
Great. So I'm basically asking, how many are you guys on the team? How did you guys found LEVR? What was the inspiration that made you guys decide to start the project?
So currently we have, I believe, 10 people, 10 and a half if you count one of our part-time guys. But there's 3 founders in total. There's myself, our CTO, and our lead quant Q. We all knew each other before the product. We got our start because we have a sports betting hedge fund that is been running for 8 or 9 years now. That's closed to one single large LP and ourselves. And I'm a DeFi guy, been in the space since 2017, got my start mining Ethereum with GPU mine. Rolled into the initial DeFi summer and then just kind of continued farming and fell in love with all things on chain. And as you can imagine, rolled into perp trading, right? I was initially trading on Binance and FTX, rolled into GMX when I found it and really loved the product, loved the idea of on-chain perps. And so quite literally, we were watching a baseball game in the basement of one of my co-founders and kind of thought to ourselves, hey, why isn't there leverage on sports betting? Is this something that could potentially be done? Looked around a little bit, said, no, it hasn't been done, and put our minds to it over the course of a few months, tried to crack out an initial theory paper on it, eventually got a system that we thought would work that proved out to be positive EV for the casino or sportsbook that would run it, and said, you know what, this is a project worth dedicating ourselves to and building it and seeing it come to fruition, and kind of the rest is history.
Nice. That's an interesting introduction about what you guys are building. Thank you for that quick background about, the team behind the project. So the first thing I noticed about the project is how it positions itself. And it's not just looking like a traditional sportsbook, but instead like a leveraged sportsbook exchange. So was a long-term vision always to blur the line between prediction markets and actual perpetual trading infrastructure?
So funny enough, when we got started on this thing, prediction markets weren't really a heavy category, right? It was Augur had came and gone. I guess Polymarket was strolling around, but kind of very, very under the radar. And within sports betting, there was projects like SXBet and Betfair, but they weren't really hitting that hard to the general public. So we thought, hey, why not just create a new category? We figured everywhere else you could go and get standard placement on a sports betting position. Why don't we build something different, establish ourselves as the market leader in that particular segment? And then once we gained traction, proved out our product and put full focus into that, we could roll over into other kind of offerings like non-leveraged betting, prop betting, that type of thing, right? Really looked at the FanDuel's DraftKings model there and said, you want to do your main thing that you're doing really, really well, And so for them, it was fantasy sports and engagement on that front. For us, leverage betting. And then once we kind of tackled that and established ourselves, we could roll over into other product offerings. But with the advent of prediction markets, it just kind of all clicked when they started popping. We kind of are more of a leveraged prediction market at under the hood than we are a true sports book. So we kind of rolled on to the phase with that, got looped into the rest of the meta there, and now we're full bore. We also understand that our system can adopt rather well to other event market contracts, not just sports, but sports is where there's the most liquidity and the cleanest resolution across multiple markets. So we figured, hey, there's also a wealth of historical data on sports markets so that we can backtest, make sure that the system we run isn't going to break on anything. So yeah, just kind of keep it going then.
Great. Now I see the vision you guys are trying to build. Interesting. Now, so many traditional, sport books profit from user losses through the V, but leverage seems to shift towards a market-driven structure. So, what are you guys fundamentally trying to build in terms of relationship between the platform and bettors, from adversary to liquidity-based?
Yeah, so we kind of have a different user segments, right? The first is obviously the most important for us is just traditional users that are going to come on. We look at them as wanting more exposure to an individual event or more exposure across a set of events based on that individual event outcome. And we kind of look at ourselves as a direct competition to the parlay offerings that a user would normally take. So for those particular user sets, we try and give them a better deal risk-wise and payout-wise than they would get from making a single bet parlay or a single game parlay, excuse me. So if a user was otherwise going to take a parlay to try and gain outsized payout and more exposure to something like a World Cup match, we'd rather have them come to Lever. And so we've tried to design the product to be competitive for that subset. There is take on the users at anywhere from 5% to on the low side to about 25% on the high side, depending on the individual match and the sport that they're making their bet on. But that's a necessity to keep the market maker vault happy and healthy and make sure that there's deep liquidity across our markets, right? And to be noted on that, we're running as close as we can or as favorable as we can in terms to the users that bet on the platform without collapsing the product in. So we try to be as fair as possible. The other set of users that we target are liquidity providers. That's just people who would want to stake into a liquidity vault and see their USDC, in our case, grow in value over the course of time. And we reward those users with 50% of the top line profit from Lever that we generate on liquidations and on borrow rate fees are the two main things that drive profit for us. And so we share 50% of that back to the pooled liquidity vault because those users are the ones that are putting their capital at risk. So our two main kind of focuses are provide a good user experience for those making trades and taking bets, and then try and provide a good user experience for people that are looking for APR on their USDC.
Nice. Thank you for being transparent about how the structure works in terms of the percent going back to the platform and those going back to those who would be using your platform. So, I also want to add, sport betting usually relies heavily on emotional impulse, while the usual DeFi trading is more strategy driven. So, how is it difficult, or how difficult is it to merge these two user behavior into one product experience without alienating either side?
That's a fine balance you got to walk, right? For us, there's kind of different segments of the users that want to take a leverage trade on a different on any given event outcome. So it could be as simple as a user just wants to have fun, wants to see an increased payout, makes the trade, and then kind of just pushes it through the entirety of the game. It could be people that want to make a trade for a set amount of time, and maybe you're really convinced that the early portion of the Spurs versus the Oklahoma City Thunder, I think it's today, are the Thunder are going to come out strong, and they're really going to, smash the Spurs. So, hey, I'd like to take a trade on that and then exit it at some point, though. Admittedly, our in-game trading system just got out of audit, so we'll be launching it here over the next week or two, first with cash outs, which run through our own market maker bot. And then here over the next month, we'll launch into a full PvP order book based system for the live game portion of the product. So we look at, like, currently we're serving really the former segment of users that just want to make a leveraged bet across the course of game time. But here shortly, we hope to service those users as well as ones that are more structurally trade direction oriented. So think of it as like betting on the direction that you think the game is going to take versus just the outcome of the game. Because with leverage and the outsized payout that comes with leverage, there's also the risk of liquidation, right? So you may think, hey, an NBA game is going to get very volatile towards the end of the game as the score collapses in on itself, and there's, a 5-6 point difference between the two teams. The odds are going to go crazy. You're going to have a higher chance of risk of liquidation. So I'm going to bet the front end of that game and try and exit my position in profit. And what we hope is that leverage provides an outsized profit for you versus the risk collateral that you've deployed. Because if you think of it like, hey, I put down $100 on a market position at even money odds. If that position pulls up 30% in odds throughout the course of the first half of that game, if you can exit that even at a 25% or a 20% movement gain representative to the 30% that it's sitting at in spot price, you can still get a really, really good outcome for yourself because you're on leverage. So you can still get multiples above your deployment capital. So for us, it's both, guys that just want to be entertained, people that want to, just do socially entertainment betting as they would normally, but also pro traders and more astute traders that want to make a directional trade at some point within the game and use leverage to increase their power and outcome on that trade.
Nice. It's great to see you guys have actually considered from this perspective. It shows you guys are actually putting the interest of those who would be using your platform at heart and trying to navigate through these particular elements. So thank you so much for that answer. The next thing I noticed is the emphasis on tradable live game positions on your website. So does LEVR ultimately see betting slips evolving into fully liquid financial instruments that users can actively manage during games, or you guys are just seeing it like a static bet?
So currently it's just a static bet, and that's just due to the nature of us launching a new product where we didn't fork anything. We built this from the ground up, and so the product just went live in early February. We really started getting some volume like middle to end of March once the March Madness competition kicked off, which allowed us to make sure that all of our systems are working properly when there's an actual amount of cash flowing through the book. And so there's, exploit angles that different users will try to gain some advantage on the system. And quite frankly, we've been through a lot of audits, right? So we went through 3 audits, one from Zellick, one from Solo Auditor, and one from Octane initially before we launched the product. And then we just went through a second round of audits with Octane again, both their AI tool and their LSRs that they have on staff to do the multi-game function for different liquidation points, as well as the in-game order book and our cash out feature. Now that we just came out of audit on that second one here at the about 2 weeks ago. So now that we're through that, we can turn on the in-game order book and allow users to go from just static position holders to true traders throughout the course of the game. We run a market maker bot on the order book in-game so that there's kind of a liquidity backstop there for as much as it can be. It's not going to be there all the time. It's not 100% of the time you can cash out, because some portions of the, if it's sitting at a 99% chance to win the game, the 1% aren't getting sold, right? We'll buy your 99% from you, but the 1% probably not. Now, what really we want to see is we open up that order book for users to participate in it, and all sorts of things can happen, right? A user could capture a discounted position, go hedge it on the other side of our order book, go hedge it on any other prediction market or exchange or book that they have, to just, purchasing those discounted positions, to really stacking together various levels of risk at different prices. Just kind of the sky's the limit. So we're really excited to see what users cook up once that's active. And just one foot in front of the other. We're getting there right now, but our hope is by the time World Cup hits that we'll have both the in-game order book running with our cash out bot, as well as it completely open for any user to come on there and participate as they see fit. And we are stacking up an API feed so that users can get direct access to the product with the least latency and the most accuracy as far as data goes.
Great, sounds exciting. I'm not someone who bets, but I could feel the excitement in how you explain what you guys have or plan to offer to those who would be using your platform. So the next thing I wanted to ask was about the tokenization of bet positions. So do you think this could eventually open the door for secondary markets where, users can trade exposure to outcomes without even watching the games themselves?
Actually, yes, I do. I think there's, if you can get enough data and you can get enough feeling for what's going on, you could likely just say arbitrage the positions. And that's where I think you don't have to be watching the game to arbitrage a position, right? If there's a position available on lever and it's, let's say 40 cents and the spot price in other markets is 55 cents, and you can buy the counter side to that position for, let's call it another 40 cents or 45 cents. Hey, if two token prices equal 90 cents and there's a guaranteed outcome of paying $1 on that position, you can just go capture both sides and arbitrage off the remainder, right? So I think there's strategies like that users definitely will be able to run, not really just on lever, but any market that offers prediction market style pricing on a dollar scale for tokenized positions. You can run that strategy, right? So for us, we think that's one of the most interesting parts about this is, yes, that can happen on just about any prediction market, but for ones that offer leverage, specifically, obviously, we want to push ours, there can be some interesting factors that can help function that outcome. Mainly if users are in leverage, their deployment capital down is such that they can make a discount on that position versus spot price and still achieve a good outcome on return on their investment on their risk capital while offering the market discount. The user that captures that discount in a buy, if they can do it on spot, they don't have a leverage overhang anymore, and they can capture a discount to the rest of the market. It's a really good position. So we believe the strongest position pricing in game will come from leverage markets for that reason.
We're not really about to take questions from the community, but this question that just came in just has something to what you just explained. I'm just like, let me just throw it in here. It's from Frost. His accent. How exactly does 2x to 5x leverage work on your platform? Could you walk him through a real example?
Yeah, so let's walk through a real live example, right? So, and we're just going to speak simple numbers we have a variable fee set for balance as well as borrow rate that accrues over game time, right? And so let's forgo all of that so we can just keep it real simple. You come in to lever and you see that there's equal balanced book pricing on both sides of a market. So on a dollar scale, that's a 50-cent position. If you take that position on, let's say, 5x leverage, because this will keep it simple for us, then you're backing each 50-cent token that you purchase with a 10-cent amount of margin on that token position. So throughout the course of the game, if your token falls below 40 cent in pricing, your margin is depleted, and therefore your position will be liquidated, right? And the way that our product works is that pre-game, we have pricing that's determined from multiple real-world exchanges and sports books. So think like Polymarket, Kalshi, Bet365, FanDuel's DraftKings. We take their pricing, we equalize it or try and get it as close as we can to 101%, which means 1% VIG. The reason we do that is to help stave off hedge activity, which would not be good for the long-term health of the product. And then that becomes our token pricing that we offer to the public on our exchange. So it's derived from an aggregated feed of multiple real-world venues. And the reason we do that is that it's less likely to highly fluctuate due to action on one of those venues. If we just pulled it from, let's say, Polymarket, someone came in and bet $10,000 on the Spurs today, it could move the pricing several cents and potentially make stale pricing or exploitable pricing if we just pulled from one source, which is why I don't like just running leverage on top of Polymarket or leverage on top of Callsheet or something like that, because it makes the pricing much more exploitable to those moves caused by action on one individual spot marketplace. So again, pregame, all of our pricing is determined by an aggregated feed of real world markets, and we try and make those as close to 100% in price, which is remove the VIG, as possible. Once the game starts, that same pricing feed that determines your pregame price now determines your liquidation price. So regardless of the action that's going on our order book, the price that you're going to be liquidated off of is the same price from the same aggregated market feed that you determined your pregame pricing. And again, we try and make that as fair as possible. If you had a large leverage position on lever and we were just running it off of one market, if a user came in and swung the odds on that one market, it could cause liquidations for a lot of users that would be very, kind of unfair, as well as users could potentially avoid liquidation by holding off a price level on that one market. So for us, it's basically a old school perp dex style model of price feeds where on GMX when it first launched, you would get like Bybit, OKX, Binance, and Uniswap price aggregated together for the price of Bitcoin. That's what's determining your price as well as what's determining your liquidation point. Kind of the same thing for us. It's going to be an aggregated feed of real world spot markets that determine both your pregame pricing that you're taking on leverage as well as your in-game pricing that's going to liquidate you. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, I really hope that, because that was a detailed explanation about that question. Really appreciate that. I just felt it was, in line with what we were talking about, and that's why I had to ask. And I'm glad I did. Really appreciate the answer. So the next question coming from me is, most betting platforms are isolated ecosystems, but I noticed that LEVR is pushing a multi-chain approach early. What strategic advantage does multi-chain accessibility provide specifically for betting liquidity?
Yeah, so initially we had thought the multi-chain approach would be best to launch on multiple chains, but that comes with a downside, which is fragmenting liquidity. So our current multi-chain approach is have the best bridge infrastructure that we can from any chain in existence to get you into Monad, to USDC and in Monad onto your LEVR account, right? And so what that allows is if you come in from Avalanche with some token on Avalanche, you can bridge it in through our infrastructure provided by our third-party provider Trails.xyz, and it should, with the lowest fees possible, bridge you into Monad, exchange it for USDC, and place that into your LEVR account. And so if it's in your EOA wallet, so if you have like a MetaMask or a Ravi wallet, you connect our site with it, you should be able to see everything that's in your wallet. And then on any chain, select it, push it over into LEVR. And then if you have, let's say, USDC on Solana or something like that, there's a QR code that you can scan and send in that way. And it should, again, just push you into USDC on Monad and into your LEVR account. And the main reason we are doing it this way is A, liquidity, and then B, speed to settlement on our accounts. If we had multiple venues across multiple chains and we were trying to sync them all, everything would move a little bit slower. And with the nature of sports betting, right, the action is the market. So if somebody scores a goal or there's some play that happens that you want to execute on really fast, then we want to be able to have users execute on that as fast as possible. One of the things that we have coming up for us is account abstracted wallets. So soon you'll be able to just sign on with Privy with your email address, fund your account through your credit card, send in crypto through an exchange account like Coinbase or Binance. And then with gasless transactions, you'll be able to just place bets, and it should function a lot more like a traditional sports betting product that you would use versus a Web3 product. Our goal is to kind of abstract away as much of the overhang of Web3 as possible to where power users can still get in there, access the contracts, access the API, stake into the vault, but your average everyday user should just be able to sign in with their email address and boom, press the button, right? And so while we love multi-chain products, for us, we don't want to fragment the liquidity, and we don't want to have to run any latency on the market so that users get a bad experience. So we feel like good bridge infrastructure is the most apt way to push a multi-chain friendly product across a wide user base at this time.
Yeah, now I see what I could see the vision of what the team is pushing towards to really appreciate that answer. So what are you guys like in terms of competition, the competitive edge we have now in the market? Does LEVR see itself competing more with other sports books or with prediction market like Poly Market, or eventually even with derivative exchanges? What are you guys looking at in long term?
Yeah, this is a good question. So first on competition, the thing that we think we really shine on is being a standalone product that doesn't rely on any one secondary product to function, right? Beyond Monad chain being fast and cheap, which it is, shout out the guys at Monad. We don't rely on Polymarket to function highly and stay alive, right? If Polymarket goes down, we don't skip a beat and we keep operating. If Kalshi goes down, we don't skip a beat, we keep operating. If DraftKings goes down, we don't skip a beat, we keep operating. So we think our competitive advantage is having a standalone product that has deep liquidity provided from the pooled liquidity vault. As far as growth and what we think will continue to be our advantage long term, we think that one of the best things that we can do is provide any user that would come on to LEVR with any other type of product that they may want to see. So we've got stuff cooking for potential casino market integrations in a very unique way that's kind of world-class and never been seen before. Non-leveraged sports betting will eventually be coming through a prediction market aggregator style system, potentially even something like perp trading for crypto assets could come. Really, we want to be the one-stop shop that all of our users go to, because if they leave our site to go somewhere else to do something else that they otherwise could have done on LEVR, that's just an opportunity to lose that user, right? So we want to provide them high quality products across the board with everything that they may want to participate in within our market segment. And we feel like if we can do that, we're really cooking and can be long-term competitive with anything that may pop up. But first and foremost, we want to be known as the preeminent place to place a leveraged position on any event market that you can get your hands on, starting with sports, as those are right now the cleanest and most consistent across multiple venues.
Nice, nice. So the last question I have before we move over to community question is how important is community identity for LEVR, especially when trying to combine sports culture, trading culture, and crypto native users into one ecosystem? How are you guys looking to build a very strong community? I don't want to use the word addictive, because looking at plainly, betting could become addictive, but in a healthy way. How are you guys planning to attract long-term users of your platform? Because that is, I feel, a very strong user base community is something that would keep your platform here on the long term.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, we just think if you have fun, you'll stick around, right? So if you have fun on the Discord, smack talking with the boys, if you have fun on the product, if you have fun on our Twitter feed, poking fun at us or poking fun at other things or just talking sports, we think that you'll stick around, right? So a lot of our kind of like Discord and Telegram conversations within the team chats and the product chats are more like lighthearted stuff where a lot of our posts can be very informative for sports information. Specifically, we do a LEVR Live broadcast on X multiple times a week where we'll drop sports knowledge, good picks, that type of thing. And we just try and build a community of users that want to, obviously talk about sports. They want to gain an edge on something. They want to share their opinion. But most importantly, we just want users to have fun with the product, right? If you're having a good time, then you're probably going to stick around longer than you otherwise would have. And one of the kind of aha moments for us as a team was when we got our first MVP version of the product live and we were testing it internally. It was the NFL season, last season, I believe it was, the start of the season. The first week we were testing the product live amongst ourselves. And, we all were watching the games on LEVR, making our bets, smack talking each other in the group chat, looking at our fantasy football players, kind of seeing what was going on. And everybody just kind of hit it at the same time. So, this has just increased the fun that we're having with watching our games that we're doing here. And it really kind of, from there, we feel like that's how we need to share that feeling with the rest of the world. And as many people as, we can get addicted to that fun, less the betting part, right? More of the fun contingent, the better it's going to be. Because, hey, maybe there's some games you don't want to bet, but you just want to see what's going on with them. People can hop in the Discord chat. Hopefully one of the things that we'll be able to get out eventually is like chat boxes within the product so users can do the good old troll box chats back and forth as they're doing their trades, right? But yeah, that's for us the biggest thing. If people are being entertained, if they're having a good time, they tend to want to come back. They tend to want to stick around. They want to entrench themselves as part of the community. As we've grown, we're seeing trading challenges pop up where users want to turn, $100 into $1,000, something like that. We're seeing users post their stories, their experiences with LEVR, walkthroughs, all that type of stuff. So for me as a founder, that's kind of the most exciting part, is not the product getting users and making revenue. It's more seeing the users adopt the product as their own and saying, I'm really having fun with this. I want to share it with everybody else.
Nice. So that's all the question from me. We took a question from the chat mid AMA. Let's see if we can take a live question now. So guys, if you have questions, kindly signify by raising your hand so you can be unmuted. So let's have Jacob. Jacob, you can go ahead with your question.
Hey guys, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, Jacob.
Yo, man, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. Just trying to survive these crazy NBA playoffs, our launch of soccer, and having some fun with it.
Nice. It's not really easy, man. I must commend you. Very good project and interesting, man. But then, for my research, correct me if I'm wrong. Most on-chain betting, that's the prediction platform, they normally struggle with liquidity fragmentation. But then, how is the LEVR? How does solving deep liquidity across multiple markets without, relying heavily on market makers?
So the way that we do this is we have a large centralized market maker pool, which is our pooled liquidity vault. So right now we have about $2 million in TVL in it, which provides us about $20,000 of market liquidity that we can offer on any given side of a market before we have to start closing the market down or cooking the odds up to offset and encourage action on one side or the other. And so I'll be technically functional here and give a little explainer. We portion 1% of overall vault TVL into each market, right? So that becomes the initial starting liquidity for the market, as well as the total vault exposure to that market. right? So that was one of the main things that we had to decide around was cold start on the market, and just took a cue from good old fashioned sports books, which is have a house pool that initially pushes it. Though we don't decide the odds, basically if you're in the house pool, then you're a market maker on every single market that LEVR offers, and over a long enough time spread, just with our back testing and the way that the product is structured, you should be revenue positive on that deployment. And caveat to that, we're at $2 million right now, and as user growth grows, we'll open it up for more deposits. But we're at a good amount for us right now with capital efficiency. We want to see, like 20, 30% of the markets reach maximum liquidity deployment before we start opening up more available TVL into the vault for users to deposit into.
Nice, nice. That really sounds interesting, man. Must say that really sounds interesting. But then my final question before I give out this privilege is talking about mechanism. Now, what mechanism prevents Oracle latency? That's the exploitation during, let's say, high volatility that during live events, while the milliseconds can create unfair advantages.
So there's two separate things going on here. First, the Oracle feed itself is sourced from a handful. So we have two providers, right? Both of those providers, one's a backup for the other provider, right? So if one provider shuts down, the other provider kicks up. And the way that we've designed to protect the product itself is that we eat all bad debt. And basically we don't allow for leveraged betting against the house within the live game. So if we did, then users would likely be able to exploit us, because there's always going to be somebody at the live game that's going to bet faster than the information is going to hit to the Oracle, right? So we kind of look at that as the same way as a poly market or a Kalshi or any other prediction market, which is if you have better data than other users, then trade that data, right? And example of better data may be that you have, you're live at a game and you see something happen before somebody else. The nature of having a PvP order book market that's open to the public during the live game is that other users will be trading against other users on that data. So it may be speed to finality on what's happening. It may be some other piece of data that they've hooked up or that they have access to that nobody else has access to, but there's nothing we want to do to prevent that or to make sure that users benefit from it. Our goal is to protect the product from that data becoming kind of negative EV to the product itself and wrecking the thing, right? So we basically baked all that in and said we just have to design the product as if that's going to happen, and it shouldn't be able to hurt us.
Thank you so much, man. I think that really answers all the question. But the more we continue to do our research in the project, the more there's gonna be questions. And I think maybe I'll just join the X and look into more and maybe ask the question through DMs or something like that, man. But for now, thank you so much, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for coming up. I encourage everybody hop into our Discord, join, get in the general chat, yell at us if there's something that you want to know, something that you're seeing that you don't like, something that you love, that type of thing. Follow us on X for the latest updates on any bonuses. We frequently do bet back bonuses, so even if you do lose, then you're rewarded with some mon, right? Try and make it friendly for new users a lot of the time, but X and Discord are the best places to find us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, sorry, I cut you off. I didn't know you wanted to say something. Go ahead, Jacob.
Nothing really. I just wanted to thank him and maybe just give you the floor, man.
All right, it was really great having you here to ask the questions, or some questions rather. Thank you so much for jumping on the mic. Before we have another live question, let's just throw this one in here from the chat. This is coming from Barrett, and the person is asking, can I track my betting history and P&L? I don't know what you're probably trying to say, in an analytics dashboard.
We don't have a full analytics dashboard up yet, especially not on like a user by user basis, but you can from the account system within the product. You can track your P&L, you can track your bets that you've placed. There's a My Bets section where it'll show you historically what markets that you've placed the bets on, what happened in those markets, if you won, if you were liquidated, if you lost, how much you redeemed, if you were able to win, all of that type of stuff. And then you can also track yourself compared to other users on the leaderboard. So your profit and loss statement is both in your account itself as well as on the leaderboard. And so you can see, hey, here's where I sit versus other users. And on that note, every month we've been rewarding the most P&L gained for the month, the most bets made for the month, the most volume, that type of thing.
Great. I hope that answered your question, Bera. I know you're on the chat, but if you have more questions, you can definitely head into their Discord. Mr. B already gave permission to yell at the team if you have questions, so you can definitely do that. So let's have a live question from Antoinette. So Antoinette, you can go ahead with your question, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. Hi, Mr. Blue. Amazing project you've got going on.
I think Mr. Blue got muted.
Yeah.
I'm back.
We have him here.
Okay.
Okay,
he's back. Can I go on?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Mr. Blue. An amazing project you've got going on, but could you help us understand how the platform generates revenue while still maintaining enough liquidity to consistently support leverage payouts and large user winnings, especially during periods of high betting activity or unexpected outcomes?
Yeah, of course. So there's, and thank you for the question. There's two main sources of revenue for the product. The first and most prominent is liquidations of users, and that accounts for most of the counter payout for winners, right? So by liquidating more users on average than in number than we pay out in winners, that allows us to pay out leveraged wins that are outsized versus the amount a user puts down in collateral, right? And so historically, it's got to be about 66% of users get liquidated or lose their bet to pay for the 34-ish% of users that win their bet, right? So that's the first way. And then the second way, or second most prominent way that we make revenue, is we charge borrow rate on the position that you're holding across the course of game time. Don't quote me on this because I don't have my stuff in front of me, but I believe it's on average about 8 to 10% of position size you pay in borrow rate across the course of game time. So that's 100% of projected in-game minutes. So for something like an NBA game, that'd be 48 minutes of NBA game time. As they elapse, you're charged a little bit more borrow rate, roughly 2% borrow rate for every minute, or 2% of the total borrow rate that you will be charged across each game minute, right? So number one, liquidation profit. Number two, borrow rate. We have position fee and skew balance fee in there as well, but those are not as prominent and don't make us by far as much profit as the other two do. So that's what allows us to keep the platform healthy, long-term, make profit, and then also counterside the exposure that comes from providing leveraged positions.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for that answer, Mr. Blue. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Antoinette, for that question. Really appreciate. So time is fast spent. I'm sorry, Hot. I actually unmuted you before, but it seems you were not active, so I had to call someone else. So thank you so much, Antonio, for that question throwing out there. because that is something of concern. Finance is something, we all have to look forward to, especially with a project like LEVR. So to know how well structured they are financially, because everything that has to do with the utilities you're building right now and even on a long term has to do with where they are pulling the source of the revenue. So thank you so much for that question. So, Mr. Blue, would you like to take in one more question, or we should just wrap it up here?
We can take in one more question. I love it. These are pretty good questions. I'd love to answer anything you guys got.
Okay. Let me see from the chat before I call. What if I can see any good question here? But let's have Mr. Hot, since I already unmuted him. You can go ahead with your question.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let me just go straight to my question. I visited your website. You guys have a nice interface there. My question is, will there be a maximum win since it's a new platform? Will there be a maximum or a minimum win, whenever we place our bets?
This is a good question, so thank you for it. The minimum bet amount that we have right now is $10. So I believe it's $10 unless they've changed it on me in the last week and I didn't notice it. But basically, and that's the risk collateral that you're putting down. The maximum position size, assuming that there's risk liquidity deployed from the vault that is still available on that side of a market. So let's say the market just opened. The maximum position you're able to take is $1,000 in risk collateral down. And we will probably increase and decrease down to maybe $5, increase up to more than $1,000 at some point in the future. But for right now, the minimum bet you can make is a bet that's backed with $10 of risk collateral. And the maximum bet size you can make is one that's backed with $1,000 of risk collateral. That's just so we can make sure that everything functions on the sports that we're offering, as well as really for like new sports. So we just launched the soccer markets here this weekend. Want to make sure that there's no exploit angle that somebody figured out that we haven't yet gotten to that drains the entirety of liquidity on a game really quickly, right? And so as we get more sure-footed with the product operating properly and making the profit we expect and having all of our markets in tow and properly vetted out, will likely increase those limits. But for right now, $10 minimum, $1,000 maximum. And that's not the leverage multiplier on top of it. It's the risk collateral that you're pushing into the product.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice. Thank you for answering my question, Mr. Blue, and then thank you, Moonshine, for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking.
Oh, I was talking to myself. So sorry. So thank you so much, Huts, for asking that question. So I was saying, Jerry, I just want to throw in this question here from Jerry. He asks, is there demo or testnet mode still available to practice before using real funds?
We unfortunately have depreciated the demo mode. We technically moved it over to like our dev mode. Just being the nature of like a small startup team, it costs cash to operate that demo product in like AWS bills and Oracle bills and whatnot. So we're only on the cash mode right now. But being that there's no live in-game trading, if you want to get a handle on like how your position would perform, my best advice to you would just be to look like go to the site, plop in a number that you would potentially bet with, write down the liquidation threshold that it would provide you, and then watch over the course of the game and just see if the green line crosses the red line or the purple line crosses the red line, and if you would have been liquidated or not, right? So just kind of good old-fashioned paper trading is what I would recommend right now, as it works just fine.
Great. I hope that answered your question, Jerry. A quick one here from Maram again from the text asking. She's asking, can I use a hardware wallet like Ledger to interact with the platform?
So I'm not entirely sure about Ledger, but I am certain that like a Gridseed Plus or a Trezor wallet will work, as that's some of the wallets that our team members use for their own like hot wallet trading. And so I know that those both work as I've tested them personally. I feel like Ledger would work, but it's really on like more of the Privy infrastructure that we use for Wallet Connect versus like something that we're doing. We definitely don't like turn it off within the Privy settings that you can't use a hardware wallet. So theoretically, Ledger should work, but I'm absolutely personally knowledgeable that Trezor and Gridseed Plus work, as we use those in hot wallet function for ourselves every day.
Great. I can see more questions in the chat, but I'm so sorry, guys. These are all the questions we'll be taking for this AMA. And I just want to appreciate each and every one of you who came on here to listen to how what LEVR intends to offer to all of us. Thank you all so much. And I also want to thank you, Mr. Blue. It was great having you, LEVR, here at GoldDiggers Call. It was a very interactive section. I love how you dive deep into what you guys have to offer, every structure and architecture of what you guys are planning to build, and how you guys intend to stay here in the long term. So before I close down the VC, guys, I just want to encourage each and every one of you to follow them on X, join their Discord. They don't have any Telegram channel right now, so please don't fall for scammers who would create
We do
false
have a
links.
Telegram channel. Correction. I just want to make sure we do have one. So there's one official
Okay,
Telegram channel. So I'll post that to
really,
you guys later, and you can
it
add it to
wasn't
the
tagged
Gold
in the
Diggers chat.
Yeah, please do that. Please do that because it wasn't tagged in the main official AMA announcements banner, and I also had to say that. So we'll tag that so it's easier for community members to join. So Mr. Blue, I'd like to give you the floor to give the final concluding statement.
Yeah, I just want to say, thanks for having us. This has been a really good conversation. You guys have great questions. And then I really feel strongly about sharing this message, right? I started as a guy sitting there looking at Web3 going, how do I get involved? And decided that I could just order some 1080 Ti's and start going at it. I saw DeFi and said, how can I get involved with this? I just started saying, hey, I will build my own project and do it. There's nothing in life that can stop you guys from doing what you want. If you're hearing this message, then go out there and get it. If you want to be a part of a project, reach out. If you want to start your own, build it. Web3 is permissionless, and you should act like it. So I really appreciate you guys having us. Hopefully everybody has a good rest of your day. Hop on the product, use it, let me know what you think.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.